That's your purgatory.
That's your purgatory. Your purgatory is just constantly solving rat psychological issues. Enjoy. So first up on the show, we're going to do a delving deeper, and I had a subject that I wanted to talk about for a little while, but considering last week we were talking about something that happened on Critical Role, I figured that it would make sense to discuss it right now, which is what I'm calling afterlife. Because once upon a time, back on that old show we did, I talked a little bit about a game called Spiritfarer, which is a game that is kind of a cozy game. We'll get into that on another segment. But basically, you are ferrying people to the afterlife while they're in limbo. And I thought about how interesting it was to create narratives that happen basically after your characters have died. And so my thought process was, having had characters that ended up in extra-dimensional hell dimensions, etc., what actually happens with characters that die? I mean, obviously you could roll up a new character and you could continue the story that way, but let's say, as our namesake would be, that you have a total Pebble knockdown, and your entire party just dies. Why not try to figure out a way to actually continue that story? And
I think in a lot of cases you can. Okay. Again, that one of the big things would be what game you're playing, for instance.
Sure.
If you're playing a game where there's no gods, no afterlife, no spiritual stuff, that might be kind of hard to figure that one out. But if you're playing a game where supernatural is a thing, paranormal might be a thing, or, deities exist, well, that becomes a whole new realm of possibilities, literally.
Right. So the obvious ones would actually be like that there is like an afterlife in your world, or that there is some kind of spirit realm, and that your characters might go there either to try and figure out how to get back to the living world, or to try and continue their mission, but in a different way entirely.
I just want to say, I think it'd be really great if they're going to the afterlife to try and return to life.
Yeah.
But you pull a Freaky Friday on everyone, and they come back to life in the wrong bodies.
Yeah, that's perfect. And then you have to switch character sheets around on them? Excellent.
For physical stats, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I totally can't wait to see who gets to control Max. It'll be you.
Yeah.
And I'll have to do Hawksbane. Perfect. Yeah, when they actually get to another realm, though, I keep thinking about, like, okay, well, those stats, you mentioned the physical stats. Would your physical stats even matter at that point? You're in the afterlife.
Afterlife?
Yeah.
Probably not much.
Yeah.
I think it would be determinant of if you can affect anything in the other side, or if you can affect anything in the physical realm as a ghost or spirit, as it were.
Sure.
But even then, I think that would be more an extension of, like, willpower.
Okay, so at a certain point, then, let's say you had, like, willpower and reflexes and fortitude, if we're going a little old school.
Very old school.
Yeah, a little old school. But those, well, not if you're doing Pathfinder, they still have that. But those sort of things might be more useful, like your actual saving throws to determine how you deal with encounters. Those are derived from something, but still you might be looking at those particular stats instead. Or your skills. Your skills might also be useful in some of those regards. You could also take the basic stats that you have and just kind of reappropriate them a little bit. Like your strength or your dexterity or your constitution might determine a little bit more about, like, your strength of will, or your agility or your ability to avoid danger in situations when you get into a spirit realm. I don't know how it would change you from a character perspective, like how you roleplay your character. I would imagine that if you're playing a certain role, you would imagine that they are essentially the same if they were in a different kind of realm, so to speak.
Yeah. Mentally and everything, but I mean, if you are playing a physically intimidating character, then perhaps that is no longer something you can do.
Yeah, you can't really be a very imposing physical character when you're a disembodied spirit.
Yeah, for instance, if you went down the model of like what World of Warcraft Night Elves become when they die, they're a wisp. So, but if you were a character and you were physically intimidating and you died and you're a wisp and you're like trying to intimidate someone and they're like, dude, you're a wisp.
It's not working for you. I could see, like, if your physical presence or maybe your charisma went into, like, a presence stat or something like that. But, again, we're gonna have to shake things up entirely for your character development. I like the idea of things that you might do once you're dead. Like things to do in the afterlife when you're dead. Just, like, are we getting on the boat with Sharon? Are we going down the river?
Things to do in the afterlife checklist. Haunt the bad guy.
Okay, this is a good idea. I like this already. Okay. So if we have access to the physical world, what you go and do is you go and find the bad guy, and then you do the Ghost Master thing, a game only I have ever played. You get into all of the objects around them, and you haunt them, and you try to scare the bejesus out of them. So therein lies your new quest. You might not be able to physically stop him, but you might scare him so badly that he trips on a banana peel and dies. So there's your new quest.
You just kill him through haunting him, and now you have to deal with him in the afterlife.
Oh, even better. And then he's in the afterlife with you. Now you're on even footing again. Perfect.
Yep. Nice.
So the only thing you really have to worry about in that case is, like, exorcists.
Yes. Clerics are your downfall.
Yeah. Hope he doesn't have a lot of clerics or some monastic order around in order to deal with you. There is also the other possibility that you could turn that into a story beat, and you could actually have the characters resurrected. I had this one idea because I thought to myself, ooh, it would be kind of fun if we were going into different kind of, almost science fiction-y territory with, maybe your fantasy, and you get down into, like, this laboratory, and it's like these regenerative vats that are all around you.
Are you going Kingdoms of Amalur on us?
Yeah, a little bit. Inspired lightly by Kingdoms of Amalur, and also BioShock, because the idea is that you have your characters that are down there, but if they do die, they electrocute themselves or something on a wet floor, or something like that. They end up waking up in vats with a little scientist going around and checking on them to see if they're awake, because this Lazarus program, essentially, that he's making, you have just become the new subjects in his little experiment. Yeah. And just kind of going, now this worked, but understand there's X number of life force that I can do from these vats, so I don't know if this is going to work again. But now if you could help me out, I might be able to, do this more in the future. Work this problem.
Well, I think one of the problems with that then becomes sort of one of the things we talked about last week with the Critical Role episode is that if you don't have death as a consequence,
it
takes away a lot of that tension.
Yeah. This is more of a mulligan situation of a very specific thing that's happening at that time. If you had a specific campaign where it was happening.
Sure. I more so like that, having to make a deal with, like, a devil or a demon or an angel or some otherworldly power to come back to life. Or having someone who lived have to make a bargain with someone very powerful to get you back to life.
So, in, like, a Dungeons & Dragons, there are actual demons. So... Yeah. I would imagine that there is the possibility that if you were to die, you could end up in some kind of a hell dimension.
Sure.
Which I kind of did anyway. But now, there's a whole story in itself, because one of the things that you might have to do in order to make a deal is that you have to defeat the demons that are down there. before you can go back. I don't know if you have any physical presence when you get down there, or if you take on some kind of demonic qualities by being down there in the first place.
Depends on the plane you're on.
Yeah. If I'm wondering, like, if you had, like, infernal characteristics or celestial characteristics, depending on where you end up.
Probably not, but they will affect you differently.
Okay. Excellent. Then the other...
Also, you're dead.
Oh, right. Also, you're dead, so who knows exactly what characteristics that you have. That's gonna really mess up your dating profile, right? Like, 5'5", blonde, dead. Corpse. Yeah. Corpse. Not alive. Incorporeal. It's gonna be hard. You're swiping left on that. But at any rate, what was I saying? Something intelligent. In Spiritfarer, though, the whole mission is that you've died. It starts off, you're dead. Stella is dead, along with her little cat, Buttercup. And they meet characters that she knew when she was alive that are now anthropomorphic animals. And they are trying to resolve their issues before they can pass on into the afterlife proper. Go through the spirit door and ascend. So the question is that something, like, if you had characters, your whole party dies, they're in this realm, is there the possibility, and this would get weird, I'm not gonna lie, where you have to try and resolve the issues of all the monsters that you previously killed that are now going to need your help, because otherwise they're now stuck here?
I think you could do something like that if you kept track of, say, intelligent enemies.
Oh, yeah.
Rather than just monsters, like unintelligent animals, beasts, magical creatures, aberrations.
Mm-hmm.
Anything intelligent, you could probably get away with and do that. But you'd have to run a game where you didn't fight dozens and dozens of intelligent enemies, I think.
Okay. Maybe you could put a threshold on that, like, that it would have to be enemies with at least, like, an 8 in intelligence or something like that, so that you're not just totally... Otherwise, this is going to get really tricky if you went into that old classic tavern adventure of getting those rats in the basement.
Yeah, you killed 600 rats in town, and they all need your help now.
These rats need help resolving their personal issues of what it was like being on fire. They didn't like that very much. Now they have to figure that out. That's a lot. That's a lot for you to deal with. Resolving rat issues one at a time. I think that actually would be hell.
Yeah. That's your purgatory.
That's your purgatory. Your purgatory is just constantly solving rat psychological issues. Enjoy. Okay. So, in general, though, your thoughts. Should we bother trying to make, like, a new storyline, an afterlife storyline for characters, or just say, well, the party's dead, campaign over, let's move on?
I think that is definitely a conversation between your players and your games master. Whether they would like to try and do something while they are dead, essentially, or if they would all like to reroll new characters, what would make sense for your story and the plot. Maybe they're really connected to their characters, so maybe they will want to go through literal hell to get them back to life.
Yeah. One weird thing, since you were talking about the Freaky Friday idea, is the idea that they could go back, but they would be stuck in, like, the bodies of, like, your normal town guards. They wouldn't have, like, they'd have, like, those NPC classes we were talking about before.
Oh, great.
They just have those, or the companion characters. They'd be stuck in squirrels. They're just all squirrels now.
This has gone off the rails.
It's gone off the rails in a wonderful way because squirrels are involved. Anyway, So, if anyone out there was interested in seeing your characters as just an entire group of regular squirrels, you let us know in the comments down below.
Not even a bardic troop of chipmunks.
A bardic troop of chipmunks?
Yeah.
Alvin,
no Alvin here.
Simon, Theodore.